Welcome to the deep dive. You're probably here because, well, like a lot of people, you're trying to get a handle on the buzz around The Last of Us Season 2.
Yeah, it's definitely stirred things up.
It really has.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fair to say the season's landed very differently for different viewers. Some love it, some not so much.
Mm-hmm.
So we've spent some time digging through, tons of reactions from really glowing reviews to some pretty strong disappointment.
Right.
And our goal today really is just to unpack those contrasting views. We want to give you a clear sense of what's driving both the praise and the backlash.
Exactly. Because season one, I mean, it set such a high standard, didn't it, critically with audiences?
Totally. Huge hit.
So this split reception for season two is definitely something worth, exploring. We'll look at what's still clicking for people, for critics especially, and then, yeah, where others feel it's maybe falling a bit short.
Okay, so let's start with the good stuff, the positive takes. Because it's important to remember, despite maybe some loud voices online, Season 2 is still getting hailed by a lot of critics.
Oh, for sure.
We're seeing phrases like, one of the most acclaimed dramas on the air.
Hmm.
That's a pretty big statement with all the TV out there now.
It really is. And it's not like it came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Season one was, swimming in Emmy nominations, actual wins.
And that Rotten Tomatoes score was sky high.
Exactly. So there's this foundation of quality that critics are seeing.
And a lot of that seems tied to the creative team staying consistent, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's key for many. You've got Neil Druckmann, who, wrote the game, and Craig Mazin, the guy behind Chernobyl.
Which was incredible.
Right. They're both back running the show, and that continuity probably gives critics confidence. Actually, we saw one review, I think it was Collider, that went really big.
Oh, yeah. What'd they say?
They called season two, get this, the strongest video game adaptation ever.
Wow. Okay, that is bold.
It is. Maybe it's because they're so close to the source material, they know how to translate its core, maybe?
That makes sense. And a huge part of that translation, it seems, is Bella Ramsey's performance as Ellie. The praise for her is pretty much everywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely wonderful is a phrase you see a lot.
Yeah, and how she portrays Ellie as this damaged young soul fighting for autonomy. One review called it a punchy, watchable delight.
Hmm. And the story is shifting more towards her, isn't it? She's becoming the central figure.
Definitely. She seems to be really carrying that weight well, according to critics.
Which just shows how vital that strong character work is, Especially with material this heavy. Even if people have issues with the plot, a great lead performance can really hold things together.
That's true.
What's also interesting, though, is that even positive reviews sometimes admit the season feels maybe slower or narrower in scope compared to the first one.
Right, I saw that too.
Yeah.
But they don't always frame it as a negative.
Exactly. It's often presented as like a deliberate choice, making it just as gutsy and thoughtful in how it shows people pushed to the edge.
So like a more focused character study, maybe. Less wandering, more digging deep.
Yeah, something like that. It seems some critics, and probably some viewers too, appreciate that deeper dive, even if it means less of the, hitting different locations every week, like in season one.
And that focus lets them really explore relationships, which is another plus point people raise.
Uh-huh. The Joel and Ellie dynamic, even with everything.
Yeah, how that evolves and gets tested.
Yeah.
But also the new relationships, like Ellie and Dina. That seems to be landing well, adding emotional depth.
It's not just about, fighting infected. It's about why you keep fighting, the connections.
Right, what makes life worth living in that world?
And then there's just the sheer craft of it all. People are still really impressed by the technical side.
Oh yeah, like what specifically?
Well, the acting across the board. We mentioned Bella Ramsey, Pedro Pascal's still there, but the new cast members too. Caitlin Dever, Isabel Merced, Catherine O'Hara, Jeffrey Wright.
That's a serious lineup.
It really is.
Uh-huh.
And the production design, just like season one, is apparently astounding. It just sucks you into that world.
So even if you argue about the story, the look and feel and the performances are still top tier for many.
That seems to be the consensus, yeah. Those elements contribute massively to the quality feel.
Okay, one last point on the pro side. The themes. Critics seem to appreciate that the show isn't shying away from tough questions.
Like what?
Like self versus society, the ethics of survival when things get desperate, and this whole cycle of justice and vengeance.
Ah, okay. Big ideas.
Yeah. That council meeting scene in Jackson, people point to that as an example of the show really digging into those moral gray areas.
Well, it's offering more than just like action and scares. It's giving you something to chew on.
Exactly. So that's the case for season 2, largely from a critical perspective. But
Yeah.
Now we have to talk about the other side.
The audience reaction.
Yeah.
Because the difference is, well, it's stark, isn't it? You look at Rotten Tomatoes, you see high critic scores, and then the audience score is significantly lower. And apparently dropping in some cases.
It's a huge gap, and you immediately have to wonder about review bombing.
Right. That term comes up a lot.
The idea that, a chunk of viewers are deliberately tanking the ratings because they're angry about something specific.
Could be plot points, could be
Other things. Yeah, some feedback suggests frustration with character choices, or even what some see as the show's politics, maybe carrying over from the game's reception. It's hard to know the exact scale of it, but that disparity, it's definitely there.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is there just a fundamental mismatch between what some fans wanted or expected and what the show is actually delivering?
It certainly seems possible, and maybe the biggest flashpoint, the most obvious one, is Joel's death, episode 2, which mirrored the game, right? That was hugely controversial there, too.
Hugely. And for viewers who got really invested in Joel in season 1, seeing him killed, especially by Abby, it was just a massive shock and maybe felt, I don't know, undeserved.
Especially after his whole motivation at the end of part 1, saving Ellie, even if it was, morally questionable.
Right. It felt like a betrayal of his arc to some. It just highlights how tricky it is adapting something people feel so strongly about. Fans have expectations, a sense of ownership almost.
Yeah, and when the story takes a turn, they hate.
It can lead to a really powerful negative reaction. And tied into that sometimes is this other criticism you see bubbling up about perceived progressive politics.
Ah, okay, so complaints about characterization or themes that some viewers disagree with.
Kind of. It seems some of the online anger is directed at that, similar to how some reacted to the game itself. We should be clear, we're just reporting that this viewpoint exists in the feedback, not saying it's valid or not.
Understood. Just part of the mix of negative reactions.
But it's definitely out there. And unfortunately, sometimes that negativity gets personal.
Yeah, the actors getting targeted online. Bella Ramsey's faced it. And I remember the actors for Ellie and Abby in the game went through it too.
It's awful. Just unwarranted abuse for, doing their job or being part of a story some people don't like.
Definitely crosses a line. Okay, so beyond those really specific hot-button issues, what are the more general criticisms?
Well, there's a feeling among some reviewers and audiences, too, that it's just a bit of a sophomore slump, meaning it lacks maybe the grace, the nuance, the texture that made season 1 feel so special. Like the storytelling quality just isn't quite there this time.
And any reasons why they feel that way?
Some feel it's becoming a bit too much like other dystopian shows.
Oh, how so?
The focus on this mission in war-torn Seattle, the factions, the violence, some say it feels heavily redolent of The Walking Dead.
Ah, okay. Losing its unique flavor, maybe. Becoming more generic post-apocalypse fare.
That's the concern for some, yeah. That season 1 felt distinct, and this feels more like a standard survival adventure.
Interesting. What about pacing or structure? Any complaints there?
Yes, definitely. That narrower scope we mentioned earlier, some see it as a negative. They miss the standalone episodes that fleshed out the world in season 1.
Like the Bill and Frank episode, for example.
Exactly. Without those, and because it's only adapting part of the second game, some feel the main story is stretched too thin.
Okay.
And related to that, some say crucial new characters like Abby or Isaac feel underdeveloped, like we don't get enough time with them to really understand them.
Which makes it hard to connect, especially if you're already upset about, say, Joel.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And then the ending of the season. Some found the finale abrupt and unsatisfying.
Doesn't wrap things up cleanly, maybe?
Seems like it leaves things hanging in a way that didn't work for everyone.
Gotcha. Anything else driving the negative feedback?
There's a criticism about the balance shifting too much towards action, like too many extended zombie battle scenes or long silent sequences.
At the expense of?
Insight, complexity, rich supporting characters, meaningful dialogue. Some say it starts to feel like you're just watching someone play the video game rather than watching a compelling drama.
Oof, that's a harsh critique for an adaptation.
It is. And then, simpler than all that, some viewers were just primarily there for Joel's story.
And now that his arc is over?
Their interest has waned. Understandable, really.
And finally, there are always casting debates, right?
Always. Some disagreement there, too. People saying Caitlin Dever, who plays Abby, should have been Ellie, or finding Bella Ramsey maybe hard to look at or not believable in the tougher moments. Just differing opinions on actor fit.
Okay, wow. So it's a lot of different factors feeding into the negativity.
It really is.
Yeah.
So when you put it all together, you see this clear picture emerge. Season 2 has definitely split its audience. Critics, by and large, are still on board, praising the adaptation, the acting, the thoughtful storytelling.
But a pretty significant chunk of the audience, they're expressing real disappointment.
Yeah, and the reasons are all over the map. Strong reactions to plot points like Joel's death, discomfort with character arcs, maybe perceived agendas, pacing issues, feeling it's too much action, missing Joel.
It really covers a wide spectrum. It definitely shows the tightrope walk involved in adapting something this beloved, this
Yeah,
intense.
absolutely. This huge difference in reception, it really makes you think, doesn't it? About how we engage with adaptations, what creators owe the source material versus their own vision, the power of fandom, how criticism even works now with instant online feedback.
Yeah, lots to unpack there. It certainly gives you, the listener, a lot of different angles to consider as you form your own opinion on The Last of Us Season 2.